Okay. There you Hello, everyone. I'm just waiting for my guest to come in. Okay, hold on. Okay. By the meanwhile, let me know where are you watching from in the comment section below. Oh, there he is. Yes, here he is. Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are
Good.
you?
Good. Can you hear
Good.
me okay?
Yes, I hear you. Okay, so hello everyone tuning in for to my first ever episode of Professional Spotlight. My name is Quinn Phillip, and I have a special guest, Andy Ortiz. Before I introduce our guest, let me know in the comment section below where are you viewing from. So, as I mentioned, my guest of honor is Andy Ortiz. He is the president and CEO of Ortiz Leadership System in Tempe, Arizona. Ortiz is also a popular keynote speaker on various topics, which is success, motivation, personal organization development. He's also a world class speaker, a leadership trainer, and coach and management consultant. So, with further ado, here is Andy Ortiz.
Well, thank you very much, Quinn, for having me as your guest today. I've been looking forward to this conversation all week, and it was a pleasure meeting you originally when you attended a conference with the American Student Government Association, and
Yes,
that's actually how we came across each other. And I'm just looking forward to today's conversation, looking forward to folks' questions so that we can address any questions that they have later. But looking forward to having a conversation with you today.
yes, I'm looking forward to it. So, with further ado, let's dive in.
Okay.
So, my first question to you is what does personal branding means to you?
To me, personal branding is more than just social media. It's really your identity in general of what you're trying to present to the world or to your community or to your clients or potential clients. One of the things, let me back up a little bit and just tell you a little bit about how my company came to be, Ortiz Leadership came to be. I started my business in 1998 after I graduated from law school at Arizona State University. I was working on two majors at that time, two graduate degrees. One was a master's in public administration,
Wow.
and the other was a Juris Doctorate of Law, both at Arizona State University. At the time, that's first really when I was really engaged in student government full time. I was student body president in 1997-98 at Arizona State University. At the time, ASU was the fourth largest public university in the country. It is now the largest public university in the United States. So my role in getting involved with my business was really to teach some of the lessons of leadership that I had learned throughout my career and throughout my education. I was trying to really incorporate some of the lessons of organizational development and organizational management that I was learning in my master's in public administration degree at ASU. And initially, when I started my company in 1998, Ortiz Leadership Systems, my focus was to be directly on youth leadership. I recall back when I was a teenager and an early adolescent and moving into my collegiate years that I realized that leadership was something that was seminal to my life experience. It's something that really guided me. It gave me a purpose. It gave me an outlet for my energy, my intellectual curiosities, and so forth. And so, what I wanted to do with my company initially when I started in 98 was to reach out to young leaders through the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Boys
Yes.
and Girls Scout program, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, organizations like that, where I could have an impact on young people, not only in my own neighborhood or in my own state, but indeed across the country and eventually globally. And so that was the seed. Dante once wrote that from the tiny spark bursts the mighty flame. And that's the way I started my business, with that tiny spark of wanting to reach out to young people and reach them where they were in their communities, in their schools, in their organizations, to try to find out what they wanted to do as far as leadership was concerned, and to be able to facilitate that path for them, whatever it was, and how they wanted to grow as leaders, how they wanted to express themselves in the leadership arena, and also what they wanted to do with their lives and their goals and their education, because all of that was really tied together in a bundle, and what made me want to pursue leadership as a passion, as an interest, and eventually as a vocation.
Nice. That's how we met. We met at Washington D.C. at a U.S. summit, and my advisor went inside his conference, his session, and that's how we came to be. At the end of the session, he introduced me. My advisor name is Doug Mills, and he introduced me to you. And ever since, we connected ever since through
And that was a
LinkedIn.
great pleasure, Quentin, to meet you. And to your question about branding too, I wanted to just branch out a little bit on that, because I think that's an important topic for people that are interested in getting their persona out there or get their image out there. And they hear the term branding a lot. It's used a lot in the business parlance, but to me, what I wanted to convey to the audience today is that it's not just collateral materials or a website, albeit that's part and parcel of it. But the thing is, your brand is really who you are, who you are at your core, and
That's
what you're trying to present to people about what it is that you want to accomplish with your goals, with your ambitions, with your talents, your abilities, and also, how you can help other people to become better at what they want to do. My business, Ortiz Leadership Systems, has been very much geared towards helping organizations and individuals maximize their potential, whether that's individuals that want to become more effective public speakers, and maybe they're scared to death about getting in front of a room and speaking. There was a Harvard study that was done a few years ago that said that the biggest fear that people had was public speaking. Some people feared speaking more than they feared death, if you can possibly imagine that. So the thing is, I've done a lot of training for speakers and communicators in businesses, in colleges and universities across the country. But branding is about how you want to portray your persona. And I don't just want to say image, because to me, the persona of who you truly are is more important than any corporate image or how you're trying to package yourself, trying to be too slick. It's really getting to the core of who you are.
That's true.
And social media has been a big part of it, because that's an opportunity for anybody, you, me, anybody else that's watching, to be able to talk to folks from around the world and to be able to get your messaging out. I do blogging. I have, of course, a website for Ortiz Leadership Systems. It's www.ortizleadership.com.
I'll leave the website in the comment section below.
That'll be awesome. And then, of course, LinkedIn, Facebook, obviously here, Twitter, Instagram. My daughter is actually much more savvy in Instagram than I am. So the thing is, I do take some coaching from her, because I know that they're very savvy, the millennials, about and the X generation, about how to utilize different social media tools. So when I first started doing social media, I had to really rely on folks that were much more savvy than I. And I don't presume to know it all about social media, far from it. I'm constantly learning. But that's leadership in its essence, too. You're constantly learning new lessons, developing new skills, honing old skills that you have. So that's what branding, to me, is all about. It's getting your message out to a broad audience using these various tools, but also developing just a unique and really authentic persona that you can share with other people, and how you can help them. To me, that's the most important thing about branding. How can you help other people to solve problems that they want to solve, or to help them become better at something that's important to them?
That's important. That's important. So before we go on to the second questions, I just want to say hello to everyone who joined us. Some of my family members came, and some of my friends. I just want to say hello, and What you mentioned is very important, and that is how I came to be. I just want to be a learn. I want to learn how to be a better leader. So, for further ado, let's go to the second question. And
Okay.
just and so, if you can give your personal brand a score, what score would you give yourself?
I think whenever you're asked a question on how do you grade yourself, that's always an opportunity to do some self-reflection. And if you look at a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably say that even all the work that I've done since I first started this business, I'm a work in progress. There is a proverb, a Chinese proverb that says that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I believe that that's true about our development as leaders. So, in a nutshell, to answer your question very much to the point, I would say that I'm probably in the area of maybe a 5 or a 6. Because the thing is, I do feel like there's so much more that can be done. The areas that I mentioned earlier, the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, the LinkedIn, and I feel like I'm learning new aspects of that all the time. And I feel that there's individuals out there that are far more knowledgeable that I'm constantly trying to learn from on how I can be more effective on those particular platforms and other platforms that I have not even explored yet. So I think that there's lots to be learned. So I feel that in some of these areas I'm more effective than others. I feel in Facebook, probably in Twitter, and LinkedIn are probably ones that I'm much more effective on.
Mhm.
I have much more of a presence there.
Yes,
Instagram is one avenue that I feel I could really expand more, and I could do a lot more on that. And that's why I feel like I'm going to people that are much more savvy, not just consultants, but also people, fraternity brothers of mine that are still in college now and that are using these tools on a daily basis as part and parcel of their lives. So the thing is, I have a lot to learn from them about how to maximize some of these platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, and all these others. I've not really explored to the full extent that I could. But the thing is, I want to learn more about them to see how I might be able to utilize them more in the future. So, if I was being, particularly frank, I would have to say somewhere in the area of a 5 or 6. Striving, aspiring, but constantly learning about how to better myself on all of these different platforms.
that's true. I'm gradually learning how to create content myself, so I would grade myself like a 4 or 5.
Mhm.
And on LinkedIn, I'm learning how to create blogs, how to more interact with more people, different levels, like professionals, my friends, and all. So, yes, you are right. There's room to improve. There's no such thing as perfect.
Now that's a good point, Quinn, because I think what we have to do is we have to really be honest with ourselves. And the thing is, frankly, sometimes social media lends itself to you want to portray something almost better than it is. Here's my life. I'm laying on the beach. I've got this beautiful car, this beautiful mansion, and this. The thing is, what people I think really want is people want authenticity. We're all craving that. We want people to tell us the truth. I mean, one of the things that's really inspired me about leaders over the course of my life, and I've done a lot of reading on personal development and leadership and success and things of that sort. Over the course of my life, since I was probably about 13 or 14 years old, I started to read biographies of great people. And the common denominator that I'd seen in a lot of these individuals' lives is that it wasn't overnight success. I mean, it was struggle, it was failure, it was disappointment. And the thing is, what people want is they want to hear the truth about how people have risen. It could be from obscurity to fame. It can be from rags to riches. Sometimes it's not even, that level of a success story, but how, somebody may have lost weight, gone on an exercise regimen and lost weight, or how they might have been able to improve a relationship of theirs, or how they might have been able to advance in their career, or how they may have been able to attain a college education. People are looking at others to find inspiration. And the thing is, to me, the best means and mode of inspiration is to share the truth of your journey, the roadblocks, as well as the uh, expressway, if you will. Where
Yes.
people want to hear the struggles that you've had to overcome. They want to hear sometimes your disappointments. I've learned more as a leader, frankly, from the failures that I've had, more than I have the successes. And I think that's one way that we can constantly learn. I've heard the term about failing forward. How do you fail and not see it as a dead end or to quit? If it's something that you believe in, you were mentioning to me even before we had this program today that you would really like to expand a show here on Facebook Live where you're interviewing different people, an interview program. And I told you, I go, if you believe that you can do that, set your mind to it, do the work that's requisite to make it happen, and you'll be successful at it. And you'll really go as you'll be able to progress as you go to be able to see what's working, what's not, how to refine, how to improve. And that's really the story of what we're all trying to do in life and leadership and everywhere else. We're trying to get better the next day than we were the day before. But I think that part of authenticity, of sharing, every aspect of your experience, warts and all, to me, that inspires an individual to say, you know what, this wasn't just an overnight sensation where somebody was just living a charmed life and everything, all the stars aligned, and that's how they made it to success. But how they fought day in and day out. They were working maybe a job that they didn't necessarily love at first, but they learned the lessons from that job and they advanced to the next, to the next. How they were in a classroom, taking the exams and studying long hours, wondering how they were going to finish their degree, sometimes over the course of many years, not just 4 years, to get a college degree and maybe attain a graduate degree subsequent to that. But those types of lessons from everyday people, it doesn't have to be somebody in a history book or somebody in Time magazine or Cosmo magazine or People magazine, but just those people that are around us. I would instruct people to look for the wisdom and to look for the inspiration from those that are around you.
Yes.
I can recall my grandfather when I was growing up. He had emigrated to the United States from Mexico during the Mexican Revolution. He came to Arizona and became a copper miner here in Arizona. He worked underground for most of his adult life to the point where he developed what they call black lung, miner's lung, from being underground and working all those years. That eventually cost him his life. But the thing is, he was one of the wisest men that I've ever met. And I've had an opportunity, thankfully, to meet with presidents, to meet with governors, to meet with foreign royalty. But that humble man had some of the most wise lessons to teach me of anybody that I've ever interacted with. And so what I'm asking people that are watching this program is don't underestimate the wisdom that's in your midst, your friends, your parents, your grandparents. To really be able to just elaborate on that point, I had an opportunity to give the eulogy a few years back at my grandmother's funeral, and she lived a good long life, almost 90 years old.
Wow.
One of the proverbs that I shared in her eulogy was an African proverb that states, when a person dies, a library burns to the ground. Think about that. When a person dies, a library burns to the ground. All the wisdom, all the experiences, the life experiences, the lessons learned of that individual, unless they are conveyed in some type of an oral history or passing along through stories or conversations with other people who will give life to those lessons and carry them forward to generations yet unborn, that wisdom would be lost.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, when I ask you to look for the wisdom in your midst, do it now. Do it with your classmates on your college campus, Quinn. Do it with your coworkers. Do it with your family members. Ask them if they could share some life lessons with you, what would they be? All of these things will help you to become a better leader. I guarantee you that. And the thing is, it's not just from the management gurus or the celebrities or the speakers that are out there on the circuit making $100,000 a speech that we're going to learn all the nuggets of wisdom. These nuggets of wisdom are in our midst. All we need to do is we need to dig them out, and we need to reach out for them because they're there. And they're going to make you a better leader. They're going to make me a better leader. Constantly, I'm trying to seek out, individuals in my classes. When I do workshops like the workshops I do across the country for the American Student Government Association, I always begin those workshops with the Greek proverb that states that in learning we teach, and in teaching we learn. In learning we teach, and in teaching we learn. I always feel that I'm going to learn a lot from the people that I'm talking to. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to share some nuggets of wisdom with them during the time that we have together.
Yes.
But I always take away new lessons and new ideas from the audiences that I address. And so I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly striving to become better. And I think that gets to the point of branding. How are we able to utilize all of this wisdom that we're gathering on a daily basis to make us better? That's going to help with the branding process as well.
That's true. Because your first thing, you have to love what you do in order to make it into a bigger thing. Like your passion with leadership, what drive you to make your company what you are today. And me, like ever since I was in high school, I love leadership. I was in leadership roles ever since high school to now. So when you met me in Washington D.C., I was I was I love what I did for the whole student body in Atlantic Cape Community College.
And that's a great philosophy of leadership, Quinn. And I think that might have been one of the things that really brought us together, where we stayed in touch beyond that conference. And the thing is, that's one of the things that I try to do in the workshops that I lead, and in the speeches and the keynote speaking that I do across the country, is that I try to forge relationships with the people that I'm talking with or talking to.
That's true.
Because the thing is, I feel blessed to be in that space of teaching and learning. And the thing is, I feel like I'm building relationships when I do this. It's not like you're buzzing into a city to address an audience and then you're out. What I try to do is I try to make the most of that time to be able to really connect, to be able to talk to people, to be able to learn about their lives and their experiences. I don't presume that I'm going to learn everything about an individual in a finite short amount of time. But if I can learn a little bit of a slice of your life in the time that we have together by listening, by being able to share some of my experience, it's almost, to me, that's where the shared humanity happens. When you're having a conversation like the one that we did after the workshop in DC, to be able to see, how could I help you? How could we keep in touch over time? And I told you back then that I was really excited about the work that you were doing on your campus in leadership, and I wanted to see what you were going to do moving forward, because to me, that's some of the greatest joy that I can get, is by seeing people that I've been able to work with go forward and to have an impact on society in their own neck of the woods, in their own communities, in their own schools, in their own families, in their own communities of faith, whatever the case might be. And so the thing is, you're one of those individuals that when you came to me and said, I want to have this Facebook Live interview with you. Number one, I was honored, that you would consider me as a subject for your interview. But number two, it was an opportunity for us to continue the conversation that we started in Washington, D.C. Many years ago. And to me, that was an opportunity to be able to re-engage with somebody that I really enjoyed meeting, and somebody that I was looking forward to keeping in touch with. So thank you.
Thank you. I was honored myself. So for the third question, um, on which social media platform are you most active, and why this platform?
I would probably say Facebook is the platform that I'm most active. I'm finding now there's probably three platforms that I'm most active on. The first would be Facebook. I've been on Facebook the longest, and it's the platform probably that I'm the most familiar with. Even this Facebook Live that we're doing today, when we were kind of working out the glitches the other day in advance of this conversation, I mean, just being able to work with you, I'd never done a Facebook Live before. And so you're actually teaching me a lot in this process of how to go about doing this, because this is great to be able to have this conversation where others are able to join us and make their comments, ask their questions, hopefully in the next few minutes.
Yes.
But just to be able to share our experiences with other people from around the world, that's very powerful. and that's a great tool. So Facebook has been probably the most prominent platform that I've utilized. I would say secondly, the longest platform that I've utilized has been probably Twitter. And Twitter is one of those things that you're not going to be sharing a lot of information because of the nature of the platform. It's very succinct. It's tips on management. It's tips on leadership. Maybe some quotes here and there, or links to things that are happening in my leadership world, or things that might be of inspiration to others. And then lastly would probably be LinkedIn, just from a professional development standpoint, a networking standpoint. I found that LinkedIn is probably the best for that particular professional networking option or aspect. Being able to reach decision makers and leaders from across the world, I found that that's been a good place to do that. And developing my career, frankly, my business, and just developing myself and my career and my skill set. That's been a good platform to utilize. And again, I don't feel like I truly understand every aspect of any of these platforms. So I'm constantly learning how better to use them. Sometimes I'm taking classes. Sometimes I'm referring to other people that I know that are utilizing these platforms to great success. And so that's kind of where I am right now. Those are the big three right now. I think Instagram is probably the next one that I really need to explore a little bit more, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing that. But I would say right now I'm probably more of a novice on Instagram than on these others, where I'm a little bit more savvy and a little bit more advanced.
Yes. Before we go to the next question, I have a person named Mina. We met in Washington D.C. In fact, she is tuning in live from Texas. If she's on,
Welcome, Mina.
yeah.
Happy to have you with us.
And I have family from Trinidad and Tobago tuning in.
Oh, happy to have them too.
Yep.
Good to have the familia with us, and
Yeah.
as they say in Spanish, the familia. And I see my good friend Alice Valenzuela is watching too. I've known her and her family for a good many years. I can only see some of the folks that are appearing on the screen. I appreciate Erica Phillip with her
Yep. That's my
comments
aunt.
too. Thank you so much, Erica, for your comments there. It's nice to have you with us. So thank you, Quinn.
No
I
problem.
appreciate the shout outs.
No problem. And as I was thinking about the Facebook Live show, and I was on your website reading about what you do for leadership coaching, maybe you could branch out your company. Like, say if they can't make it to Arizona, um, you could do it on Facebook Live or Instagram Live or whichever platform, because according to my professor, Dr. I, she quoted that in 2022, businesses will rely on video content. Everything's going to be on video content, like more live stream rather than the traditional way you come in, make an appointment and all. But now, since Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even LinkedIn is going to be having a live stream feature. Everything's going to be integrated into live stream, which will make it more easier for people to come in and do face to face.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the future is in video content and kind of long distance technologies that you can utilize to be able to have real time conversations with individuals and coaching relationships, as you mentioned. So I found that this is really in the speakers business as well as in the coaching and in the consulting world, that this is kind of the wave of the future and the wave of the present. Frankly,
Yeah.
we're already there, where people are utilizing these types of technologies and these types of platforms to have those types of conversations that once upon a time, you had to hop on a plane and get from point A to point B to have
Yep.
these types of conversation. Or even if you were speaking at a conference, where you had to get on the plane, go to the hotel, go to the venue and do it. But now I'm starting to see more and more of these types of conversations, these types of presentations and so forth, where you're able to share your information from wherever you are. And so, that's one of the things that I would like to make a pledge with you, that you and
Mm-hmm.
I can work together to explore some of these technologies, because I think, you have your finger on the pulse of kind of where the trends are.
Yep.
And I've noticed that, you're very well read, and you're very savvy about kind of the new trends and the new movements of where things are headed. And
Yes.
so I feel in the spirit of what I shared earlier about in learning we teach and in teaching we learn,
Yep.
I have a lot to learn from you. And I want to continue that opportunity to be able to learn, what are some of the things that you're seeing that are maybe hot platforms or venues where people are sharing information. And
Yeah.
podcasting has been another thing that I've wanted to do for a long time, and never quite branched out into it that to the full extent that I would like to. So, streaming audio as well as streaming video content. So I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. So I'll put on my student hat, and you can put on your teacher hat, and then
Thank.
we'll have that conversation or those conversations moving forward. But I think you're absolutely right in your observation.
Yes. I'm actually on
I see Butch
LinkedIn.
Oxendine joined us too
Mm-hmm.
from ASBA. So hi, Butch. Good to see you.
Yeah, I was actually on LinkedIn. I made a blog about a blogger, but not only she's a blogger, she's a wedding photographer, and she have her own podcast show. It called Gold Digger. Um, but it's Gold Digger. It's GOALDIGGER, and I will put the link in the comment section below. Also on Andrew's website, I will put it on the website.
Okay, there you're back. I had lost you there for a second.
uh, okay, so for the next question, um, how has your online brand contribute to your professional career?
I think it's contributed significantly. A lot of times, people will only see a little bit or a slice of what you're presenting because everybody's got busy lives. So the thing is, I like to make it a practice that on a daily basis, I'm sharing material on various platforms. I mentioned the Facebook, the Twitter, the LinkedIn. On all of those three platforms, I share information on a daily basis, sometimes even on an hourly basis, because to me, you never know who's going to see something that you're posting. If it's a quote, if it's a link to a video, if it's information about a presentation that you have coming up, if it's a picture, a photo of a previous event, you never know what people are going to see. But the thing is, it's important to be a contributor and to share content. But I also think that it's important to be able to be a consumer of this content as well. When other people are sharing, to like the things that they're posting and the things that are helping you, and to be able to comment on those postings, to tell people not just thumbs up, but to tell them how their content has helped you. In some instances, I've posted something that I think it can be uplifting or inspirational, and
Yeah.
someone will respond to me, I'm so glad that you shared that. It was so timely, and I really needed to see that today. Thank you so much for sharing. That made my day by having somebody
Sure.
recognize that and to tell me how something that I shared improved their day or made their experience a little bit better that particular moment or that particular day. And the thing is, I think we need to share that with each other, where we're sharing appreciation for what people are sharing with us. To me, it's like if somebody gives you a gift, Quinn,
Mm-hmm.
you don't just accept it and don't say thank you or don't acknowledge what someone has given to you, but you do thank them. You do acknowledge them. You do let them know how much that meant to you or means to you. And so to me, that's where I try not to let social media become too far removed or too antiseptic. I want to keep, and when I speak at some of the ASJA conferences, I always share this in my leadership workshop that I call Stoke the Fire, 7 Ways to Maximize Your Leadership Potential. When I
Yes.
talk about communication, being an effective communicator, I think sometimes social media has helped to bridge gaps, but sometimes I think it can also create wider gaps where it's communication is maybe not as deep. You know what I mean? I always tell the story about when I met my wife in Washington, D.C. in 1993. I met her at a political symposium with the Center for the Study of the Presidency in Washington, D.C. The center had been started by President Eisenhower when he left the White House. And so we met at this symposium and we hit it off. And she was living in Oklahoma. I was living in Arizona. For 4 years, we had a long distance relationship. And we wrote each other letters over the course of that time, starting in 93 through 97 when we got married. And the thing is, the reason I share that is because the letters that we wrote to each other over the course of those 4 years, we still have them in trunks here at our home.
Wow.
But it represents a lot of content in our lives from that particular point of time. But it also shares deep communication, where we were really thinking about what we wanted to convey to each other in those letters. And I think sometimes that's becoming a lost art, is how deeply you're communicating. It's not just how broadly you're communicating or how many platforms you can communicate on. That's important, don't get me wrong. But the thing is, how deeply can you communicate? I'm finding even with texting, in some of the classes that I was teaching with the University of Phoenix, for many years as a part-time faculty and as a full-time faculty, I was teaching critical thinking courses. And I was finding that texting was really affecting a lot of people's grammar when they were writing. So the thing is, when you're talking about communicating, it's not only communicating widely, but communicating deeply. It's also communicating well in the spoken word, being able to convey your ideas. I always tell my audiences, if you have great ideas, that's only half the battle. If you cannot convey those ideas effectively to other people, if you cannot convey your emotions or your thoughts or your ideas or your concepts, then you're not as an effective leader as you could be. The other thing is in writing. How are you communicating in writing in an effective fashion? That's why I talk to students about, when was the last time someone wrote a letter to the editor in their newspaper? It may not be like you used to send in a letter to the newspaper now. Maybe it's something that you do electronically in an email, to respond to a situation in your community or in your city, or even on your school campus. If you're submitting a letter to your campus newspaper about something that you see that could be better or could be more effective, or you just have an opinion on an issue that you would like to share, get in the habit of doing that. When you were talking about your friend that has a blog, that's another avenue of being able to convey your ideas and share knowledge that you're gaining with other people. Sometimes it can be very specific. People have blogs on specific hobbies or specific topics. It could be leadership, it could be sports, it could be a particular hobby or a particular sports team, whatever the case might be. But by sharing your knowledge on that topic, you're increasing the wealth of knowledge and the wealth of wisdom that's out there. So don't underestimate, even if you feel sometimes that you don't have that much knowledge to share what you have. Somebody out there is going to benefit from it. So when we talked about, communication and how that's affected my career on all these platforms, inevitably it's helped me because it's helped me to expand my network considerably, exponentially over the course of many years. But the thing is, it's also not just the breadth of that network, but I also keep in touch with people on a daily basis. I send out birthday messages to people in all of my networks. Facebook, I've done that pretty much ever since I started. And, it's not just happy birthday, Quinn, but I try to send a message that's going to be a little bit more personal. And I find that keeps the ties robust and the ties of communication alive and well. And I think people really do appreciate that personal touch.
That's true. I really appreciate it when you send it. I was actually surprised that you send a happy birthday message to me on my birthday.
It was a pleasure. And I'll do it again every year that we're connected. So let's stay connected.
Yes, we definitely will. And for the next question, before I go to the next question, I want to say hello to everyone who just joining us. Nancy Martinez Lopez and Lola Gimolero.
Welcome.
And so for the audience who's watching, you could send us message questions in the comment section below, and Andy will gladly will answer it. So I will lead you to my next question. Um, what advice would you give to college students who are still building their personal brands?
I would just tell them that it is a work in progress, and to begin where you are. I think that there's that seems somewhat overly simplistic, but to me, it's the truth. Begin where you are. When I first started on Facebook years ago, and I just started to build, the network of people that I wanted to engage with and connect with. I mean, you have to start with that first connection. And so any of these platforms that you're part of, and I'm talking directly to these young people that you're speaking of, get your name out there. Get your experiences out there. Share the knowledge that you have. To me, it's important for all these networks to be two-way streets where you're sharing what you have and you're also taking from other people what they're sharing with you. Because that is a symbiotic relationship where communication is happening at a higher level. You're taking the knowledge and the gifts that people are sharing with you to help make you a better person, a better leader, a better communicator, and you're also doing the same in response to them. So the thing is, there's a giving and a taking happening. It's not that you're just taking, and it's not that you're just giving, right? You're doing both. And to me, that's the important part of these social media platforms. So when people are trying to build their brand, be mindful of that, because sometimes you can see that, and you probably have seen this before too, where I mean, there's a certain aspect of self promotion that
Hmm.
happens on social media, and that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but the thing is when it's constantly that, and it's not giving, but just attend my workshop, or give me these likes or these follows, to my whatever comment I've made or whatever webcasts I've done. How many likes, how many like. That's one thing that I see almost a little too much probably in today's day and age is this. It's too much about the likes, or it's too much about, to me it's a little too much about the ego gratification. And I want to kind of take a step back where I think, if you're promoting yourself and you're building a brand, you do want to get followers, and you do want to get people to follow your message, and all that. But the thing is, it's not just, for a personal self-aggrandizement, to say, oh, how great I am, I've got 1 million followers, right? It's about, what are you doing to help the lives of these people that are following you? What are you doing to learn from these people that are engaging with you? That's the most important part, where the communication is not, what I call an inch deep and a mile wide, where you've got all these contacts, but you really don't know the people that you're connected to. They're just a face, or they're just a name. Where you're keeping that personal touch to it as much as possible. There's going to be people that you interact with more on these different platforms. That's inevitable, right? Or people that like your posts more than others. But the thing is, it's not all about the me.
Hmm.
And that's the leadership component to it, where it's not just about you. It's not just about how many followers you can get, but it is, kind of keeping in the mindset of, how am I helping to serve?
That's
To me,
true.
service is a watchword. Service is a value. That's a very important one to me, about how are you serving. Sure, it makes me feel great if I post something and I have a lot of people respond to it, or a lot of people like it. I mean, that's human nature. You want people to like what you're sharing, right? But the
Hmm.
thing is, it's also, how do you feel like you're helping people? How do you feel like you're serving people? In order to take what you know and to contribute it, to them, to be able to share it with them, so that they can move forward. It's kind of the paying it forward. They can use what they gain from you to help others, and that's the exponential impact that you can have. To me, that's what social media is really all about. It's not just about, okay, I'm a influencer on Instagram and I've got all these sponsorships and all. I mean, that's all well and good if you can do that, but don't lose sight of the people that you're serving. Don't lose sight of the people that are helping to contribute to making you better.
That's true. That they always say, the less people you have, the like say if you have like say if your friend have like 1,000 friends and you only have 3 friends, so like as you say, your friend with 1,000 friends, how much of them will keep in contact with you, opposed to the person that have 3 friends, they will have like a stronger connection because either if it's friends or family, and to the other friend that have 1,000 friends, they might be just adding people with you may never know they may have fake profiles or just follow like celebrities that don't even interact with you.
Right.
So
Right. No,
go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, I think you're right. It to me, there's no it's not a quantity thing on social media for me. It never has been. I want to have a broad network. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
But the thing is, it always has been tied into the quality of the interactions, the quality of the relationships that are being built. Because to me, that's what makes, a relationship worth its salt. When you can trust each other, when you build some rapport with one another. And it doesn't mean that you're going to communicate on a daily basis. But the thing is the quality of the communication. Because there's people that I've been connected with on Facebook, for years and years since the beginning.
Hmm.
And the thing is, I can look back on, the thread of our communications over the years and to be able to see, how that symbiotic relationship has occurred over the course of the years. One of the people that's, Butch Oxendine, that's joining us today. When I first met Butch, and this was even before the advent of social media, really, because this was back in like 1997, when I first met Butch, and I was student body president at Arizona State, and he had a magazine called Student Leader Magazine at the time, and he was doing a story on how much student government leaders, various campuses across the country, were getting paid, what the salaries were, or if students were paid at all, student leaders were paid at all. And so he had an interview with me for that particular story. And lo and behold, that was the genesis of our relationship, that's gone on these many years now, probably about 15 years now, if not a little longer, where we've known each other and interacted with each other. I've spoken at every conference pretty much that he's had with the American Student Government Association. But to me, it's almost like you and I when we met, in Washington, D.C., at Quinn. That
Hmm.
first conversation was the first of several that we've had since then. But the
That's
thing
true.
is, it's not about, the just the quantity of relationships. It's about the quality of the relationships.
That's
And
true.
how, even if you don't speak on a daily basis, when you do reconnect, like you reached out to me about having this Facebook Live conversation, there was no hesitation on my part that I was going to do it if time permitted and my schedule permitted to do it, that I was going to be here with you
Yeah.
because I value our relationship that much and I respect you that much that I wanted to be here and I wanted to be able to interact with your audience today. So if I had to boil it down on these, these relationships that we build on social media, to remember that it's not just quantity, it's quality.
That's true. And speaking of Butch, he sent me a question. The question is, what has been your biggest professional challenge, problem, or issue?
Thanks, Butch, for the hard question. Um,
He's the CEO.
no, it's almost like you have to just choose one, huh? Um, in life, we're constantly bombarded with all of these things: challenges, problems, issues, difficulties, roadblocks, however you want to call them. But the thing is, I think that one of the biggest challenges. Let me harken back to starting this business. I think one of the things that's the most difficult when you're starting a business, especially as an individual business leader or a sole proprietor, trying to do everything that needs to be done. When I first started Ortiz Leadership Systems back in 1998, and I told you I really wanted to reach out to young leaders in Boys and Girls Clubs, Boys and Girls Scouts, YMCA, YWCA, those types of organizations. It was carving out a niche. It was carving out an identity. Who was Andy Ortiz? Okay, I had a student leadership background. and I had been involved in this and that organization. That was all good. But the thing is, how was I going to differentiate myself from everybody else that was doing the type of work that I wanted to do? The speaking, the training, the consulting. And the thing is, like I talked about students getting on social media, and beginning their brand, you start from where you are. What is the value proposition that you have to offer? And so my biggest challenge in building a business was being able to carve through all of the forest out there, all of the different offerings that people have, to be able to make my own value proposition. Okay, here's the experience that I have. Here's the knowledge that I bring to the table. Here's the wisdom that I feel I can share. Here's my resume. Here's my background, my bio, what I can offer, my offerings for my business. And again, when I first started my business, my offerings were not as robust as they are today, all these many years later. It's almost, 22 years later now. So the thing is, you start from where you are. So the challenge, and it's constantly a challenge to this day because there's a lot of competition out there.
That's true.
But the thing is, one of the aspects that I've really built upon as a foundation for my business, so I guess this is a challenge as well as an opportunity. John F. Kennedy used to tell the story of the symbol in the Chinese language that represented both challenge and opportunity. So I always say, whenever you have a challenge or you have a difficulty, it's how do you look at it? Do you look at it as the glass half full or half empty? If you look at that challenge as an opportunity, you say, well, how can I build upon this? Okay, I'm not well known right now as I'm starting my business. That's a challenge. I have to become better known. But that's an opportunity because there's a blank slate. I have all these people that I can market to. I can do it on social media. I can do direct mail. I can, get out in my community and do talks to try to, broaden my profile and to get people to know who I am. Sometimes pro bono, getting out there and doing free talks when I first started, just to get my brand known. And over the course of time, you're refining and you're improving. But the thing is, it does not ever get away from what I mentioned earlier. How are you serving? How are you making a difference in other people's lives? Even if it's in a 20-minute keynote for a Kiwanis Club, what difference are you trying to make out there? And so that was the biggest challenge professionally, is trying to develop that brand, really, since we're talking about brand, to be able to be known and to be able to be recognized in the field of personal development, leadership, motivational speaking, consulting, training, and expanding it from the youth leadership to corporate leadership, to colleges and universities, to corporations, to government entities and government departments, because all of these different groups needed leadership. They needed training. They needed personal development, and they need personal development. And not only they need. And so, how are you expanding to these different avenues and being able to share something that's uniquely valuable to each particular sector? Because there's no one-size-fits-all magic bullet for leadership. And you know this by going to the ASGA conferences.
That's
You
true.
had different speakers on different aspects of leadership. Not one speaker, I guarantee you, said, okay, here's the magic formula for leadership. Because it doesn't exist. Different people have different approaches to leadership. They have different ways that they practice leadership, different values, different life experiences, different cultural experiences. So all that contributes to what type of leader you're going to be ultimately. So the thing is, my biggest challenge would have been, really developing that brand for my business, learning who I was, that I couldn't offer everything to everybody. Because when I first started my business, I was coming off working 3 years for Arizona State University with their Center for Nonprofit Leadership and Management. And so, I was really kind of building my own persona, right, of who I was going to be on my own, sink or swim, feast or famine. And when you start a business, that's a scary part, because you're out there. It's very vulnerable. So the thing is, if people aren't knocking down your door, you feel like, oh gosh, am I going to be able to pay the bills? Am I going to be able to make ends meet? Is this going to be a vision that's going to turn into something that I really believe it can be? And the thing is, I've had those moments where it's been famine and I didn't have people knocking on my door and I started to doubt myself, but you have to hold true. You have to, they say, keep your eyes on the prize, where why you're doing something. And if you have the why, the how will always be worked out. You'll always find how to do it if the why is strong enough. And that's been, my life in business, my life in leadership. I feel like this is the work I was meant to do on this planet, is to, really speak and train and develop leaders in all different avenues. So I'm blessed to be able to do what I do.
That's true. That's very inspirational. And ever since I started an interest in leadership, I, as you said, I hold on to it. And what what it lead me to, I've met different people such as yourself, great people. I met Butch Oxendine. He is a fantastic person. You're a fantastic person. And I met different CEOs. And I would like a time to interview different potential CEOs, professionals, even if it's just my friends. As you say, like you had to start small to big. And
Mhm.
I could quote from my teacher. My teacher, she's first started being getting a present in 2004. So she started like for little one or two people viewing her content to now today her to thousands of people being involved in her show. And as you say, it don't happen overnight. It took her
That's true.
years to get where she at right now. So that's what I want to do. I want to start off small to big. And
That's how it happens. You like I shared that quote from Dante, from the tiny spark bursts the mighty flame. You start small, but the thing is, as you refine and you build and you learn, to me, it's whenever you're developing a project or a business, I always say it's the ready, aim, fire mentality. It's not the ready, fire, aim. You have to do your due diligence. You have to do your homework. You have to say, okay, I have this idea, but how am I going to present it to the public? How am I going to make this idea more than just an idea? How am I going to make it a reality? How am I going to make this vision manifest, right?
hmm
There's a Japanese proverb that I share in my some of my keynote speeches on leadership, and it says that a vision without action is just a dream,
hmm,
but action without vision is just a nightmare. Think about that.
wow,
Vision without action is just a dream.
that's
If you
true.
have a great vision, but you don't have the actions behind it to make it real, it'll just lay fallow. It'll never grow. It'll never be what it can be.
That's
But
true.
action without vision is just a nightmare. If you have action just for the sake of action, if you're just doing things without thinking about why you're doing them or how to best do them, you're spinning your wheels. So the two sides of that quote are very powerful in and of themselves. When I first heard that, the first part of that quote, I was a young man, about 18 years old, and I read it in a book, and I thought it was very profound that vision without action is just a dream. And I thought to myself, wow, that's true. If you have a vision but you don't put the work into it, the sweat equity, the hard effort to make it happen, and that happens every day. People have great ideas all the time.
That's
But what
true.
separates successful people from people that are not as successful, oftentimes it's the work. It's the effort. It's the due diligence. It's the planning. It's the execution, right? That separates the truly successful people from the other people that say, oh, I have a great idea, or someday I'd like to do, but someday never comes.
hmm
You've got to put your stake in the ground. And you have to say, if this is really important to me, if this is something that I really want to accomplish, I have to do the work and I have to plan the work. I always talk about planning your work and working your plan.
That's
And
true.
that's true. You have to be able to make that happen. I have a mantra that I use that I simply say, if I have something that I want to accomplish, if it is to be, it's up to me. If it is to be, it's up to me. No excuses. Not, oh, I was dealt the bad hand, or no, I don't have as much money to do this, or I don't have the right this or the right that. If it's truly important, you'll find a way.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not important, you'll find an excuse.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, I'm going to use my teacher as an example also. Again, um, where she go on live is she don't have a big fancy studio. She do it in her laundry room with buckets and stuff to hold up her equipment. So
Mhm.
if you're passionate about something, as you say, make it happen. You'll find way. There's different ways to make it happen.
I agree.
Yep. And as I'm making it happen, I'm just going on live on my iPad and with holding up on computers. I'm in a closet in Stockton University. Some I made friends with people in Stockton, and which allowed me to be in here because I can't find no quiet area.
And when you make it big, you can say it all started in the closet at Stockton University.
Yep, that's
You
true.
can put a plaque. You can put a big bronze plaque in that in that wall behind you
That's true.
and
That's
say,
true.
"This is where it all started."
That's true.
No, I think that's a great story. That the fact that you start.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, she got cut off. Wait, not cut off. It appeared that our gas got froze. Um, let me see. Froze. Okay. So, while he gets back, um, feel free feel free to put questions in the comment section below. Um, I hope you all enjoying the show, and I'm planning on keeping this show going. I want to interview different professionals, even professionals. I want to interview people, and I want to see how it is going from there. As I say, Butch, I'm gonna invite him again. Okay, so I'm gonna end this live right now, and I'm gonna invite him in the next video. Okay, thank you all for viewing, and see you all in the next video. Bye.